Hey everybody, Chris Waters here, and in this video series I am answering the 99 most common questions that Australian hunters have. This is part 3 of the series where I am looking at harvesting, meat handling, animals and hunting properties. Now, all the 99 questions are timestamped and linked below to their various videos. So if you do have a specific question in mind, head down to the description and head straight to that answer. Otherwise, you can stick around for the whole video if you want. Now, full disclosure, this is important that you do your own research. Now, this video was recorded at a particular time. Maybe laws have changed since then. Each state and territory has their own different rules and regulations. Maybe I get something wrong in this video. And if I do, I encourage you to comment below. But it's really important when it comes to firearms and hunting that you do your own research. Don't take the information here for granted. Now, also, if you do learn something from this video, I encourage you, share it with a hunter that you know, new or experienced, doesn't really matter, there's always something that we can learn. And finally, if you're more of a reader and you want to download a PDF resource of this 99 questions and their answers, that is available for download at the Australian Hunters Club website. Link is below in the description. Let's start answering some questions now. How do I go about getting access to hunting properties? Look, the best way that you can gain access to a hunting property is by helping the farmer out, by spending time with them, by developing a relationship with them. Now, most people don't want to do that. They just want to access a property and shoot on it. But the people who actually have a lot of access tend to be really nice people and tend to put in the work, help out, fix fences, herd cattle, just do stuff around the farm. And then eventually, once you build up enough rapport and relationship, then you can ask. Should I take my mates on properties that I have access to? Yeah, you can take your mates to properties that you have access to, but you need to first ask the property owner if that's okay. If he says it's not okay, it's not okay. You shouldn't do it. What else should I keep in mind when I'm hunting on someone else's property? First and foremost, if a gate is closed and you open it, close it again. Make sure you don't disturb any livestock unnecessarily. Don't tear the place up with quad bikes and ATVs and trucks and things like that. Just be respectful. If you make any rubbish, take the rubbish away. And also, if you end up shooting something, share that with the farmer. They're obviously keen to control the pests on their properties, and they love that kind of feedback. What should I do if I discover strange spots or growths on the meat of organs of an animal that I'm hoping to harvest? Throw it out. Don't even bother trying to salvage it. Honestly, the second that I see a growth or a spot or a weird discoloration in the meat, I throw it out. When in doubt, throw it out. It's not worth getting sick or dying from. What do I do with the carcass after I butchered it in the bush? You just leave it. It sounds strange, I know, but you just take whatever you can off it and then you leave it. The scavengers will eat the rest and eventually it will break down and just feed the natural ecosystem. After I've shot an animal, do I need to string that animal up with a rope and a tree in order to butcher it? No, you don't. I mean, obviously stringing an animal up in a tree takes a lot more work, you need a lot more equipment, and it can be useful if you're skinning the animal, but if you're just butchering it, you can do it just as effectively on the ground. You just need to make sure that you don't contaminate the meat. Is there a part of an animal I shouldn't eat? You shouldn't eat the intestines, you shouldn't eat the bladder, but honestly, everything else is up for grabs. You can even take the bones to make broth. You can eat the brains, the liver, the kidneys. You can even empty the stomach, clean the stomach, and use the stomach for cooking. There's the core flat, there's obviously all of the meat. There's heaps of things that you can eat in an animal. What do I do if I nick the gut bag when opening up an animal? Look, if you nick the gut bag on an animal, you want to get that guts out as quickly as you can and avoid it touching any of the meat. Now, if a little bit of it does touch the meat, you can clean it off, but obviously if it splits and goes all through the cavity, it's going to be spoiled, so you're not going to be able to salvage that. But if you just nick it and it starts to kind of come out with gravity, just quickly move it outside of the animal. It's okay if it touches the skin, and then once you've got all that out, wash your hands really well and then continue butchering. What is the best cut of meat on an animal? That's a Pandora's box. A lot of people have strong opinions, but most people fall in the camp of two. They either say it's the backstraps or the tenderloins. Do the different species of deer taste different? Yes, they do. So the larger deer, the sambar, rooster, and the reds taste a little bit more gamier than the smaller species like the fallow and the chital and the hog. So there's a little bit of a different taste profile, but it's subtle. Okay, time to take a bit of a breather. We've answered a few questions. Clearly, you're still interested. You're still here. So before we go any further, I just want to take 1 minute to quickly tell you about the Australian Hunters Club, why it's a fantastic club and why I think you should join. Then we'll get right back to the questions. Are you someone who wants to learn more about hunting? Are you looking for a positive and optimistic hunting community you can join? Well, maybe you should check out the Australian Hunters Club. In fact, let's skip the maybe. I want to personally invite you to join, like me, as a member. Members get discounts on leading hunting brands and products, as well as discounts on Australia's best guided hunts. We give away professionally guided hunts and hunting products every single month. Members host hunts and events. We have an epic annual camp every year. You can even find other hunters in your area using our online members directory. To learn more or sign up, head over to australianhunters.com.au and hopefully I see you at an event soon. Alright, back to the questions. What is the easiest way to cook venison and not stuff it up? Venison schnitzels. What is the easiest way to cook goat and not stuff it up? Goat curry. What is the easiest way to cook pork and not stuff it up? Pork fried cutlets. Is it okay if I got a little bit of dirt on the meat? Yes, it's okay if you got a little bit of dirt on the meat. Just wash it off. Honestly, yes, you should try not to contaminate your meat unnecessarily, but a little bit of dirt on your meat is fine. How long can I leave a carcass out in the open before it spoils? This is largely dependent on the weather and the climate that you're in. If you're in Victoria in the dead of winter or up in the mountains in New South Wales in the dead of winter, sub kind of 10 degrees, closer to zero, you can leave the carcass out for ages. I probably wouldn't leave it out more than a day and a half maximum. The further north you go, the smaller that window gets. And if it's summer, obviously, you've got like an hour to kind of get that meat on ice before it spoils. Once I've shot an animal, how do I handle and store the game meat properly? So once an animal's down, the first thing you want to do is remove all the guts from it. We call it field dressing. So you essentially get all the intestines out, the heart out, the lungs, the kidneys, liver, everything. Get that all out. Then you've just got a really nice clean carcass. Then you've got a few different options. If it's a small animal, like a small goat or a small pig or a small deer, you can backpack it. You can take it over your shoulders. You can walk it back to camp, do whatever you want with it there. Generally for a larger species of deer, like a sambar or a red or a rusa, you're going to want to quarter it. So if you want to break down the shoulders, the legs, 4 separate pieces. Also take the back straps, take the tenderloins, take all the meat out of the ribs, take the neck meat, pour all that in a breathable game bag, and then hike that back to camp, get it on ice. Then when you get it home, you can break down those cuts even further. What do I do if I want to keep the skin or the hide of an animal after I've shot it? So once you've shot the animal, the first thing that you need to do is obviously remove the skin. We call that skinning. And that's a process whereby you string the animal up and you slowly remove the skin. And be very, very careful about that process, not nicking it, putting holes in it, but also trying to keep as much of that flesh off it as possible. Once you've got just the hide in itself, you want to go through the process called fleshing. That's getting all of the excess flesh off it. Then you can salt the hide, just fill it full of salt, and then wrap it all up, and then you can keep it in that state for a week or so, or you can just freeze it immediately and then deal with the tanning process after that. If you have questions about the tanning process, I've actually filmed a great video that walks you through that entire tanning process, and I'll drop a link to that below. Once I've shot the deer, the goat, or the pig, how do I transfer it home? Well, ideally, you've either broken it up into quarters and put it in an esky with ice, or you've just chucked it in the car and filled the carcass full of ice as well, or even just found a way to cool it down. Maybe you've got a refrigerator in the back of your ute, maybe you're going to blast the AC and you've only got 30 minutes to drive. But either way, that's the process that you'd go through to get it home. What animals and hunting styles are the most common in each state? So in Victoria, the main focus is on hunting deer, sambar, and fallow, and there's sunbreds as well. There's a big deer hunting community, either glassing and long distance shooting or stalking. And then next from that, you probably have duck hunters and then rabbit, fox hunters. There's not as many pigs and goats in Victoria, although they do get seen occasionally. In New South Wales, there's a big focus obviously on state forest hunting, lots more pigs, lots more goats, lots more deer, and then also some pig dogging in the northern areas. Higher up again in Queensland, big focus is on pig dogging, pest control management. However, there are deer. In the Northern Territory, it's about trophy hunting. So it's encouraging the international market to come in and hunt buffalo, bangtang, scrub bull, camels even, and they do have some deer up there as well. South Australia, it's mostly hunting deer. Western Australia, it's mostly hunting pigs and goats with a little bit of deer. And then in Tasmania, mostly people are hunting deer, but there's also the option to hunt wallabies, which is the one exception in Australia where you can actually hunt those. What is the difference between a game species and a pest or feral species? So a game species is a species that a state has decided should be hunted for sport, for game. So we have in Victoria, ducks, and we have quail, and we have deer. They're considered game species, and they're afforded different privileges based on that, and there's different rules surrounding how you hunt them. Feral species are anything that's been introduced that's having a negative impact on the ecology or the environment. So things like foxes, rabbits, hares, we're talking about pigs and goats, and there's different rules again for how you hunt those. Those rules tend to be a little bit looser, and they're encouraged to be shot no matter what. What are the main pest or feral species in Australia that you can hunt? So there's rabbits, there's hares, there's foxes, there's pigs, there's goats. Further north, you get things like bangtang and scrub bulls, although they're considered trophy animals. So they're a weird hybrid of trophy animal that's really expensive to shoot, but they're also a pest. You also have things like camels and donkeys and wild horses in some places. What are the main game species that I can hunt in Australia? So each state and territory handles this question a little bit differently, but there is a fair bit of crossover. So for the most part, deer are considered a game species, and we're talking about sambar, rusa, fallow, reds, chital, and hog deer. And then you also have species like quail and pheasant and waterfowl are all considered game animals. Can you hunt kangaroo in Australia? No, technically you're not allowed to hunt kangaroo in Australia, but you can get a permit to control or cull kangaroo numbers on a farm property if they have agricultural interests. The only exception to this rule is in Tasmania, you are allowed to hunt wallaby. Alright, so that's this particular group of questions answered. Just a reminder, the full 99 questions are linked and timestamped below, as well as the other videos in this series, so you can go check that out in the description below. And if you did learn something, I encourage you to share these with another hunter. I'm sure they'll learn something too. And if you haven't gone and checked out the Australian Hunters Club, I want to personally invite you to go do that now. It's a fantastic club. It's a club that I'm a part of. So many great benefits of being involved. Check it out at australianhunters.com.au. And finally, if you haven't gone and watched each of the episodes in the Australian Huntsman Season 1, definitely go do that right now. I'll drop a link to the playlist in the description below where you can check out each of the full-length 10 episodes. I had a great time pulling this season together in this last year with my friends, hunting around Australia, goats and deer. It's definitely worth checking out. Otherwise, hopefully I see you in a video soon.